Another busy week for the crypto industry. Coinbase is launching prediction markets and now offering stock trading. And it's been a big week for crypto exchange MoonPay as well. The company will launch a stablecoin with Exodus, and the CFTC's Caroline Pham is joining the team. Meanwhile, Visa is allowing banks to use Circle stablecoin over Solana's blockchain. And JPMorgan has launched a tokenized money market fund on Ethereum's blockchain. This shows how stablecoins, prediction markets, and tokenization have been among the biggest fintech trends this year. Well, joining me as we wrap up the year is Rob Hadick, General Partner at Dragonfly, a crypto-native VC firm. Rob, great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Well, 2025 has been quite the year when it comes to the world of digital assets, but you've been in this space since 2018, so give us an idea of where the money is moving right now.
Yeah, so 2018 was the ICO phase. It was trying to bring awareness of crypto to a broad set of consumers, but we didn't really have the infrastructure yet. Today, the infrastructure is now there, that we're seeing all of these announcements that you've been talking about, JPMorgan, other large institutions coming into the space, the DTCC, and we're starting to see what I call the institutionalization phase of crypto, and we're seeing investment into all blockchain infrastructure and the assets themselves, Bitcoin, the ETFs, coming from large institutions. And so that's what we're really excited about, is this institutional adoption that's happening in the space right now.
And speaking of which, stablecoin payments have been in the spotlight in 2025, and some estimates do call for growth to double as we head into next year. So where do you think it belongs in the future of global payments, and break it down for us?
So I think double is probably conservative. My expectation is that it's a lot bigger than that next year. You just talked about, you saw Visa enabling stablecoin settlement 24/7, 365, right? That is an unlock for capital efficiency. It's an unlock for cross-border direct push payments that we've seen with things like Visa Direct, which is the fastest growing part of Visa's business today. That's going to be, I think, an accelerating force. We're going to see an accelerating force in cross-border B2B payments, especially at the SMB sector. We're going to see an acceleration really around payouts for contractors and what is a global economy, right? And so stablecoins are much better for programmable movement of money. It's much better for capital efficiency. And our expectation is that stablecoins take over a lot of cross-border, take over a lot of correspondent banking, and eventually move their way into actually merchant acceptance as well, as you're seeing with announcements like Klarna USD, who wants to do, they have this marketplace for their stablecoin between consumers and their merchants.
And another area we're focusing on as we head into 2026 is tokenized real-world assets. Yeah. So what do you expect to see in this space as we head into not just next year, but beyond?
So we've seen the Figure IPO, which is a very, the second or third best performing IPO of the year. That was the start of tokenizing real estate. So it was a HELOCs, right? Now we've seen this growth of the Biddle Fund, which is BlackRock's money market fund. Obviously JPMorgan announced theirs. And what we're starting to see is kind of all large institutions saying, hey, if I can tokenize an asset, I can move it across different counterparties, across different asset classes, much more easily and much more programmably. And so we expect that we'll see that go beyond just money market funds now. We'll start to see things like CLOs or other types of credit products. We're starting to hear a long conversation around tokenized equities like the DTCC. So Robinhood obviously had just announced that they were going to be doing that this year as well, and has launched that product. And so we expect kind of a snowball effect here as liquidity gets bigger and bigger.
And while I have you here, I do want to get your take on prediction markets. So even here at the New York Stock Exchange, prediction markets have been in the spotlight this year, especially in the final quarter of 2025, with ICE, the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, investing in Polymarket. But I understand Dragonfly was also an early investor in Polymarket. Right, yeah. And you liken prediction markets to options. So can you walk us through this?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what it is a binary option, right? And so it tells you invest or you put money into an outcome that is a yes or no outcome, right? Or this person will win or won't win outcome, right? And it allows you to have direct access to any type of market, right? And you can create a market on an election, you can create a market on weather-related activities. I've talked about insurance companies who are actively looking at these types of options products to hedge risk for that it might be weather-related. We're starting to see a lot of conversation around how to use these options for institutional use cases, but also as a way to get more direct exposure to an outcome relative to having to worry about second and third order effects like you might when you invest in a certain type of equity or the yield curve, etc.
And finally, before I let you go, not only do you have an engineering background, but you also are in VC. So I do want to get your take as well as read on the temperature when it comes to the crypto IPO outlook for next year?
So, I mean, the single best performing IPO of this year was Circle, right? Figure, top 5 performing IPO this year. CoreWeave, which has an AI and crypto story as well, top performing IPO. There's a clear demand from the market for access to growth technology, crypto and AI being the 2 areas where we're seeing growth. If you look at Kraken filing, BitGo is out there, and you look at the long list, my expectation is that that continues and there's a real explosion of crypto IPOs next year.
And of course, for viewers out there who are watching at the nation's airport gates or in business lounges, they might be wondering, what does this actually mean for them, especially as retail investors? So what would you say to them? What do they have to look forward to as we head into the future?
I think we're going to continue to see a growth of essentially democratization of assets, right? Democratization of things that you can invest in. Crypto and tokenized assets, they allow for a broader set of access through different brokerages, different front ends, different types, and really globally, right? And so what I expect for the retail investor to see is that they will continue to get more and more access to all types of investable assets, and that's a good thing, right? We don't want to have any single asset class just be exposed to institutional investors.
And finally, before I let you go, when we think about 2025, there has been a lot that's happened when it comes to digital assets and crypto, both in TradFi as well as DeFi, and we continue to keep an eye on the regulatory landscape and legislation coming down the pike. So what are your expectations from the nation's capital in 2026?
Yeah, so clearly the big conversation right now has been around the Clarity Act or some sort of reconciliation thereof. I expect that that'll be the big focus going into early next year. Following that, I expect probably crypto to take a bit of a backseat as we start to get rulemaking for Genius, as we start to get more rulemaking within the SEC and the CFTC around these different types of assets and how we should treat them relative to brokerages and equities, et cetera. And so I expect to see a lot more kind of go into the lap of the regulators versus the legislature in 2026.
Well, a lot to look forward to as we head into the new year, so hopefully you'll be back then. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you.